It's Song Talk Radio.
Welcome to Song Talk Radio. This is the show with songwriters talking to other songwriters about the craft of songwriting. We share tips, tools, and techniques, and together we all become better at writing songs. I'm your host, Neil Modi, and with me, my co-host, Phil Emery. How you doing, Phil?
I'm doing fantastic here in St. John's, Newfoundland. Another beautiful sunny day.
Beautiful. Yeah, it was a great day here in Toronto. We've had stunning weather here in Toronto the last few days, like summer.
I know, it's awesome.
You're awesome. Please send your comments, questions, and weather reports to @SongTalkRadio on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. Feedback at songtalk.ca for the email, and we'll share your thoughts here on the show. And please visit songtalk.ca to see the show post for this episode, to find links to resources we mentioned, and to download lyric and chord sheets to follow along with the songs that we feature. And before we get to tonight's guest, just a little interesting article I happened to see on the social medias about Bono from U2 apologizes for the 2014 iTunes album dump and calls it an overreach. So Bono was quoted in his new upcoming memoir, which he's releasing called Surrender: 40 Songs, One Story. Is going to be released on November 1st this year. He said that he takes full responsibility for the gaffe. I thought if we could just put our music within reach of people, they might choose to reach out towards it. Not quite. As one social media wisecracker put it, woke up this morning to find Bono in my kitchen, drinking my coffee, wearing my dressing gown, reading my paper. Or the less kind, the free U2 album is overpriced. Mea culpa. So how many years did that take, Phil? 2014 till now?
You know, I have to admit, I thought it was a terrible situation. I mean, I suddenly had music on my phone that I didn't ask for. You know, it was terrible. I mean, take that, Syrian refugees.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't the greatest thing, but people made such a huge deal out of it, and I don't quite understand why.
Yeah.
It's, you know, if that's the worst thing that you have to worry about in a day, that's a good day.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of kind of anti-U2 stuff happening in the last little while, and I don't really understand that. I mean, I've never been a huge fan. I mean, I like sort of their later stuff. I didn't like there's that album that had America on it. I did not like that one. But I think he's a great lyricist, and they're a great band, and they do great live shows. I never had a big problem, and they never got drunk and chewed up hotel rooms or do anything like that. So yeah. I have a lot of time for them. I have no problem with them.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I'm not a huge Uber fan. I think, Joshua Tree and Akshong Baby to me are like two of the greatest albums ever. And but past that, not a huge fan of most of their stuff. I remember when this thing dropped, I was like, great, it popped in my iTunes. I've heard people say that they've tried to delete it and it won't delete. I've never deleted it, but it also just sort of rolls into everything else in my iTunes. Like, it didn't really bother me as such. But I mean, I do have a lot of time for them, and I do respect them a lot as a band, but it's the typical thing. They get, any band that gets too popular, people always accuse them of selling out, and
that's true.
And then it becomes cool to hate them. Coldplay, Nickelback, Imagine Dragons for some reason. I don't know where that one.
It's true.
It's like, if we.
I would like to state publicly that here at Song Talk Radio, we are quite willing to sell out. So send in your offers to feedback at songtalk.ca, and we'll sell out.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll totally sell out. And we're quite willing to have Nickelback, U2, or Imagine Dragons. Even Imagine Dragons.
Even Imagine Dragons, yes.
If you guys are listening, happy to have you.
Just fill out the form, and we'll let you know.
See if you're qualified enough. Yeah, I think we'll be fine. But
Indeed.
But we'll look forward to Bono's memoir, which is releasing on November 1st. So that should be an interesting thing, at least. It's interesting that Spin spun this article about his, he's releasing a memoir. Shouldn't that have been the headline instead of he apologizes for that 2014 album?
I did hear that one of the reasons he wears sunglasses all the time is because he has degenerative sight thing. His sight is kind of
really?
failing.
I did not know
So,
that. Wow.
yeah.
So he wears sunglasses at night.
Yeah. And they are a Christian band, but they don't push it too much, which I like.
I think I might have heard that somewhere, but it's not out in the front.
No,
Certainly.
Apparently they have like prayer meetings before the shows and all that, which it's fine. I think they're great songwriters, and they had a lot of hits.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Okie dokie. All right. Enough about you too. Let's get on to some better stuff. We're happy to have Canadian Americana roots band Bywater Call tonight, and here's a little bit of their song "Left Behind." Filled with incredible vocals and musicianship, Canadian Americana roots band Bywater Call has made their unprecedented mark on the Canadian and international blues roots scene with their brand new album, Remain. From explosive television performances to radio play across the country, their distinctive sound blending rock, Americana, and soul is highlighted by the explosive vocal talent of lead singer Meghan Parnell, with a voice coined as one of the, quote, best in roots and blues today by European press, often compared to Susan Tedeschi. Their debut album in 2019 spent 11 weeks at #1 on the Roots Music Canada charts and was prominently featured on Stingray, Global TV's Your Morning, and Canadian Campus Radio. Tonight, we're happy to have Bywater Call's primary songwriters and Meghan Parnell and Dave Barnes. Thanks for coming on the show, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Awesome to have you. So we've seen, of course, the press photo of your band that has 7 people, but you guys are the primary songwriters. Did the two of you do all the songwriting in the band, or is there more collaboration among the other members?
Yeah, we come up with the nebulous of the idea, the basic floor plan, and then we bring it to the guys to get their flavor and their additions to the song. So it's never fully composed before we bring it in.
Mm-hmm. So, is that really like a band arrangement thing? Like the bones of the song remain the same, or do they make suggestions for like melody changes, chord changes, lyric changes, anything like that?
Not so much. Like lyrics primarily sit with Dave and I, but definitely like song structure changes, chord structures.
Yeah,
they have a lot to do with that.
They'll notice things that I might miss, like Dave, you did that one already, like that. You use the flat 7, 6 thing, and it's like, oh right, okay, and like. Or we used it as an ending on this song, and I might miss that just because I'm in a different key or whatever, and just focusing on doing so. And then plus, like sometimes things are just redundant. They're like, do we need the 2 bars of this thing? And then we'll. So they definitely have like a hand in the arrangement, like you said, but also just like the identity of things, where maybe less is more sometimes, stuff like that,
and ironing out those little details.
Are they doing? Are the horn folk doing their own arrangements?
Yeah. So Steve and Julian will write the parts. Yeah.
Send them home with homework. They usually come back with something pretty good.
Yeah.
You guys are like, yeah, sounds great. Okay, so how does it work then between the two of you? Is it lyrics and music, or you guys collaborate on both, or?
Well, most of the time a song starts with Dave and a chord structure, and sometimes a really like basic melody idea that he'll send to me. bring over to me. And I'll try to come up with just something to put on top of that melody and lyrics wise. And then it's just a bunch of bouncing back and forth, what we're liking about it, what we don't like about it, and why, and how to change it and make it more of what we're kind of envisioning. Once in a while, I'll come up with a chord idea, but it's usually really, really basic. So then he'll take it and make it cooler.
Good.
Right. Okay. And you're a guitarist?
Yeah, I do. So yeah.
The song that we're going to be talking about today, it sounds very live. Like it's a long song. It's almost 6 minutes long, which these days is really long. Do you tend to do sort of longer, sort of live feeling type things, or do you do work in different lengths? Or
that song live is 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So self-indulgent. Yeah. We try to do whatever whatever fits the tune. Typically there isn't a focus on like the, people sometimes comment on the 3-minute radio window. Most of our songs are longer. We're not good at writing 3-minute songs.
No, I mean, we don't approach it with we don't really expect to get much radio play. So we base it more around kind of the feeling of the tune and whatever length that takes us to.
And certainly for a blues based, I think it's very heavily steeped in blues, even though there's a bit of Americana rock and everything in there. And then there's not necessarily an expectation from your audience that songs are short and snappy, necessarily like pop songs. But your song also has there's a lot of words, and there's long, I don't want to say drawn out melodies, but the melodies are not short and snappy. They're some of them do span like a couple of bars, and that all adds up.
Yeah.
And plus having a big band like that, you want to have strong instrumental sections, which you also have, so that lengthens the song. I mean, there's lots of. It's not that we talked about this on the show before, that what constitutes a long song is not like a 3-minute song can be a long song if it's boring and has very few changes.
Yeah,
right? Your song is 6 minutes long, but it's constantly moving. Your melodies are going places, instrumental bits. This stuff is constantly changing in it, so it's never boring. It keeps the listener engaged. So you can, Stairway to Heaven is a long song, but it ain't boring.
Absolutely, several movements within the piece. Yeah.
So have you always written this sort of style of music, or have you come from different roots? Or
I think the first band that we really seriously wrote for, both of us, was Bywater Call. So we most of the guys in the band and myself are Humber grads, and so that's the local Toronto music school here. Great program. And so out of school, we were doing event bands for a really long time, just playing music on the scene, and with a deep desire to do our own thing and write the kind of stuff that we really liked. But it kind of took a while to work up the nerve. So when we finally did it, 6 or 8 years had gone by since we graduated or whatever, and then I think we eventually, a friend of ours had a live event that he needed an opening band for. And he said, you kind of put it to us, you keep saying you want to do this. Well, here's your shot, right? Give me 20 minutes as an opening band or something. And we did it, and that was the beginning of Bywater Call.
One thing I've often wondered with bands with many people is, I was in a trio, and it could be a bit of a challenge getting 3 people to be able to show up at the same time. And when I was younger, I was in a band with more people, and the only time we actually ever got together was on stage. Are you able to actually have everyone in a rehearsal room at the same time, or is there always sort of?
It's not easy. Everybody's pretty busy. But everybody's also willing to carve time out for the project. So that's really good. And then we're actually getting back into the songwriting process now. So we're talking about the best way to kind of approach that. And yes, jamming and working stuff out in person is important. But we also think it's a really good tool to be able to pass the tune back and forth while everybody's at home and has a minute to think about it. So we could be like, okay, here's like the skeleton of the song. We're really missing something on the keys. Can you just sit down for 20 minutes at home and send us back a couple ideas instead of everybody sitting in a room and hemming and hawing together. So
Definitely
it's kind of a combination.
to get 7 people in the room at the same time, but we the guys make time for it. So it does happen often. And then we'll do things like do a 5-piece rehearsal or a 4-piece rehearsal sometimes if, depending on who can make it. I think you and I have been at all of the rehearsals, probably. Actually, sometimes not even you. Yeah, sometimes just the rhythm section. So, whatever works on a given week.
Yeah. And when you deliver the skeleton of the song to the other band members, is it like, obviously there's a recording of you guys just performing it just as a duo, right? But is there also like a lead sheet, but at least a sheet with the lyrics and the chord changes and everything is kind of mapped out for everybody? Is that something you do?
Yeah, I'll hammer out a chart often. Usually via Sibelius, just like put together like the basic roadmap, just to because I want to quickly move on from like when the C7 is coming up into, well, what should we do with the C7? I want to spend very little time because they're all pro musicians, so I want to spend the minimum amount of time on the A to Z and much more time on the what should we do to make the pre-chorus interesting. So the chart kind of helps, and they'll absorb the music and memorize it in their own time.
Of course.
Yeah.
To me, that's a very important thing. Like I'm in a band, and when we tend to do that as well. Even if it is, my lead singer chicken scratching it on the back of a sheet, one of us, the bass player will take it and type it up with the latest version of the lyrics, and then we have a reference point for our next rehearsal, when we're working out stuff, that everyone's got the same copy and everyone's got the same, we're all on the same page, literally.
About what chord goes where when that might change anyway. So it's just like,
right.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And then of course things do change, but everyone can chicken scratch their copy and then do another revision after that, which is cool.
When you're writing, are you ever thinking about, not so much a radio play, but the streaming services like Spotify and the like, because the way people listen to songs there is very different. They'll often just listen to the first little bit, and that's why everyone wants to have the chorus within 10 seconds or something, which seems kind of madness to me. Do you ever think about those kinds of things, or are you just sort of writing it almost from a purely stylistic standpoint?
I mean, we needed a little reining in terms of that. We had our producer Renan was just like, okay, we think that this tune could get some play on radio or on, could be a feature for Spotify. We should get to the point a lot earlier. And so some of our intros got cut down because of that. But we really kind of needed a perspective to kind of make those decisions. Like when we're writing, we're not thinking about that.
Yeah, that comes later.
But when we get closer to the end point of going into the studio, there's kind of like, what are these final little bits and pieces? And some of that's like, do you really need a 45-second introduction to this tune?
Right.
Yeah, you need to start with the Well, I did notice with this song, it at least starts with the instrumental of the chorus. Like it starts with that kind of riff, and it puts the energy of the chorus right up front.
Yeah,
which is cool.
And it didn't always. That was actually a change. Like
oh, really? Okay.
There was more non-lyrical content before that part. There was a really to that part that's like, can we please just let's start the song? Like, which would be good.
Yeah. And it still says it long.
Yeah.
Of course, at one point, you were supposed to have 8 bars of intro because the DJ would talk over the beginning, so that was really important. But that's not so much of an issue now. But it's interesting to see how the media will change the formats of songs, and how short and simplistic the songs can be. And this was such a nice breath of fresh air because it's not, like a 3-minute pop song. I mean, it's like a full thing. And that's why I said it sounded like something that you would put together live, because it doesn't seem like this would be something that someone would sit down and write. There's a different kind of process when someone's writing on their own. and writing sort of a song versus sort of a band thing, which has life and growth, and it would be hard unless you have a fantastic vision. It would be hard to kind of to predict the way the song kind of builds, without an experience with a real band.
Yeah, definitely. The tune in general, I think, goes all over the place, and it was inspired by like a few different, what would you say, influences of ours, like our artists that we really love. So we were trying to grab these different sort of feelings from those songs and like kind of hodgepodge together our own, unique thing for it. But yeah, it's definitely kind of sprawling. Probably one of the longer ones on the record, but not the longest. Yeah.
But I mean, that kind of structure for us, because the song takes a journey, really, and that's something we really enjoy doing, and we've been milking that even more in our live performances. But you don't get an opportunity to do that as much when you're recording. So with this tune, we really thought that was an important part of the tune. So to take it out would have, I don't know, you'd be missing a big piece of it.
Yeah, you guys talk a little bit about the lyric development, because I'm curious, if Dave, you're coming up with a cool riff on the guitar and a cool chord pattern, and then hand it over to Meghan, and then Meghan, do you always sort of listen closely to the music and say what kind of emotion does this evoke in me, and that's going to inspire the lyric? Or do you already have pages upon pages of lyrics written and you think, oh, this might fit well with that? Or how does that inception work?
They generally are developed for whatever kind of vibe and chord structure and whatever that Dave has come up with. This one in particular started with the verse. We had that like kind of swampy feel on the verse. And I think like the first lyric I came up with was the first lyric of the tune, which just felt, it ain't easy. It just felt easy in that. So then just kind of going with that. We wrote the chorus together on that. I think you and I sat down a lot and back and forth to that chorus quite a bit.
Yeah. So what we were talking about yesterday, and one of the things we do a lot was with all writing, and for me, I feel like it's how good songs are written, although it's just only the way I know to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
The chorus. So I've got the chords, they're kind of this descending slide thing, bah, 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 and I'm hearing, and that's how we would write. That's how we write almost all our hooks. Is I sing some mumbled garbage, non-words, and then I start to try to find the syllable structures that will actually. Keith Richards talked about this in his book with Mick. He's like, you can't just put anything in there. The syllables have to fit perfectly to make the chorus, the hook, interesting. Or you hear songwriters all the time trying to stuff English or whatever their personal language is into a song. It doesn't work. It's all right angles or elbows or whatever you would say. So for hooks and for writing, that's huge. Is we'll be like, what about something like, and we'll sing a non-word melody but still it has like sounds or peeking out of it in the corners.
Actually, what'll happen a lot is there'll be like a general sound that we kind of know fits, and I'll be working upstairs and you'll be downstairs, and we'll be on like Messenger or something, be like, what about this in that place?
Yeah.
It'll just kind of, brainstorming little ideas that come to us now that we have that kind of sound in our head.
And when you're doing that, you have no conception about what the grand idea for the song is, like what the song is about.
Yeah, I mean, I think we had for this one, there was, like I said, I had started with a verse, so there was kind of a vibe to the tune. Somebody that's just maybe having a hard time and is lost following the crowd of people who they think is like successful and what they're supposed to be doing, and just taking whatever I had come up with in that moment for the verse, and finding a chorus that was catchy and impactful that fit into that puzzle. Yeah,
Meg always has a theme she's trying to expand on. That's not really my department, so she had like an idea. And then I think the hook, we just turned it on its head. So we were like, we made it, the idea is positive, right? So
Yeah, breakaway.
Lost and left behind. It's a
Yeah.
good thing. Let's not go with the crowd, I think, is the idea.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
That's it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and you both have gone to Humber, is that correct?
Not me.
Not Meg, but most of the of Bywater Call, and Meg was just like a recommendation from a friend as a great singer.
Oh, nice.
A long time ago.
I will say, and this is super controversial, but do with it what you can. Humber is an amazing program to teach instrumentalists to do what they do.
That's specifically the jazz program, is it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, now it's changed a lot, but
Okay.
I don't think you can really teach a vocalist to sing. You can teach them the technical aspects of singing, but that's not going to create a Billie Holiday or like even a Meghan Parnell. That's kind of, or conversely, say someone like Tom Waits. It's like you have to find a way to find that. They can't teach you that either. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
When you're taking away the mechanics of things, it's not so simple. So with vocalists, it's kind of, for me, it was always like they either have it for what I'm looking for, they have it or they don't. Mm-hmm. And Meg instantly had it when we met. This girl's fantastic,
That being said, I kind of wish in a way I had some of that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no, still super helpful. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean,
yeah.
You're right. The je ne sais quoi part is kind of, and the thing is, like every singer, like there are many. You've said this, Phil, many times. There are a lot of technically great singers that just aren't that interesting. Like they have no.
Yeah.
They think your personality comes through. You can be technically imperfect, but if your personality shines through and your vibe and your character, the character of your voice and your delivery is unique and interesting, then that's way better than a technically perfect singer.
For
Absolutely.
sure.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Tom Waits fan, so I certainly agree.
Neil Young,
with that. Neil Young. Oh yeah.
Yeah. There's definitely like Tom's story is so interesting, where he started off as like a Sinatra-esque crooner, and then started.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. That's like in the beginning, in the early days, he was very like, and then he almost kind of made fun of that, like when he like into Frank's Wild Years and stuff. He's almost. I mean, I don't know. This was just my impression, but it seems like he was kind of like teasing himself for going down that road, because at this point he's got this full broken glass, gargle voice, just like the rasp sound you can get. But yeah, like my point is, you still couldn't teach somebody how to do that, but you wouldn't necessarily have to be an incredibly technically trained singer to come up with that on your own, I guess.
No. That's really just him. I assume anyway. That's him just revealing his true self.
Yeah, personality.
It's just him being him, because if he was making stuff up, or he just had too many cigarettes and whiskey over the years, it turned into that. I don't know. I have a lot of respect for Tom Waits. I can't all listen to him sing. I'm one of those people.
Oh, really? You're one of those
people? It just grates on me, and that makes it so I can't even pay attention to the lyrics, because I just can't stand his voice.
Wow.
So now how do we all feel about Leonard Cohen?
I was just thinking Leonard Cohen. Yeah.
I love Leonard
Okay.
Cohen. Okay. I'm not a big Neil Young fan either, and I think he's a perfectly great singer. Tom Waits is a fine singer. It's just one of those things.
You don't like the style, yeah.
I like his style. It's like Billie Eilish. Like everyone's going nuts over how unique the music is. I'm like, sure, it's unique music. I can't stand the mumbling vocals.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Just can't. Like there's no consonants in her vocals. Like, sorry.
Right. Yeah. I'm trying to think of a singer that I really, really don't like. And
there's
maybe it's a good thing that I don't.
Well, of course, in the music industry, you're always, you're always talking to someone. But it's interesting, because one of the things I liked about this tune is you're not trying to chase a trend. You're just kind of doing what you want. Yeah, and it's I think there's certainly like an audience for it, and but you're not trying to be Billie Eilish or whatever it is, because by the time it comes out, the trend has already gone by. So it's never good to.
And we just don't it's for what we want to put out there. That kind of music, although I appreciate it, doesn't resonate with us. Like the whole thing, we want to enjoy what we're doing, and there's a certain vibe that we're going for, and That's the whole reason we're doing this. So not conforming to the thing that's the thing.
I find it hard to believe that I don't know, like I guess I have a bit of a chip on my shoulder when it comes to that. Is it feels impossible for someone to be at the top of the pops, so to speak, and not constantly have to, meet with the faculty of accounting and statistics and go, okay, so the next song you had great numbers on. It's like, what are we doing here? Is this math? It's like, how could it not always be? When does creativity stop and sales begins? And I think in the last 20 years of music, we've had to ask that question millions of times. We don't, we have no ambition beyond like, let's make a good song and a good album and hopefully people will like it. Yeah. There's no,
the thing I've heard lately, and by lately, I mean, what you mean, last 20 years or so, maybe a little bit less than that, but I've heard, you need to find your niche audience. There's no such thing anymore as appealing to the wide masses, but like a lot of people like blues and roots music. You've got to find those people.
There's a
community. Your Uber fans out of them.
and within this community, there's definitely mega stars that are like, that have blown up over the last 20 years. I mean, I'd put Amy Winehouse in that camp, Sharon Jones, the Black Pumas, Tedeschi Trucks, Marcus King. These people are doing incredibly well in this wheelhouse. We're fans of all of those artists. And then, Kanye puts out a new record and I go, I don't know. I don't know anything about that. I have no relationship with that at all. I don't know. I might hear it in the store and be like, it's catchy, and I'm willing to give it that.
And then like Phil was saying that, whatever trend that's on, it's going to fall off and something else will be
right
on top.
Yeah.
But if you guys are consistent with what you're doing and your fans love you for it, then what's the problem?
Yeah.
Personally, I'm waiting for the polka revival.
Yeah.
I think that's going to come back.
We were just talking about that Weird Al is like actually an award-winning polka artist.
Yeah.
It's quite good.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh yeah.
And Steve Martin is an award-winning banjo
player. This also came up in the same conversation. Yeah.
Exactly. Why not?
And here we are with no awards. What's going on?
Monday.
Didn't we get top 20 podcast on something? Some list?
Oh, we did. Yes.
It's something,
All right. Okay. Why don't we take a? What's that?
My mom likes this.
Yeah, makes sense.
If we share our stuff around, we could double our fan count, right?
Yeah. That's true.
The four of us.
Cross-pollinate. Okay, why don't we take a full listen to Left Behind, and then we'll talk about it some more.
Sounds good.
Here we go.
Just a little and me, all alone, all alone. We could hear the breeze, music sweet, oh, calling us home. Oh, baby, ain't it strange? Just one little change, we can choose another way. Oh, we got everything we need, love, deep down in our soul. The rest can wash away with the rain. Oh, oh. Sell your soul for another easy day. Sell your heart for another great escape. Sell your mind for another ball and chain. Oh, baby, ain't it strange? They don't wanna change. Oh, they just walk away. Save your soul, save your mind, save your heart. Wasted time waiting on a better sign. Oh, baby, ain't it strange? They don't wanna change. Oh, let them walk away. If you reach for me, break away from the same old hollow tomorrow. Walk away with me, we'll be lost and left behind. Lost and left behind. Lost and left behind. Lost and left behind. Lost and left behind.
Very cool.
Awesome.
Haven't listened to that in a really
Oh,
long
boy.
time.
More is more school of songs.
Was that literally recorded live off the floor, your whole band?
Practically.
Many parts of it.
Many
Yeah.
parts
There
of
are
it.
overdubs though, especially the background, certain guitars.
Okay, but the bones of it certainly.
Yeah. The all the rhythm
The
stuff.
bass,
was there.
drums, my vocals,
Yeah.
some of the guitar, the horns, all
Yeah.
and I think on this one, all the keys, I think,
Okay.
came
Yeah.
from that session.
And
Yeah.
no metronome, just like go.
Oh no,
There's
there's a click. Yeah.
There is a click. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Even the bridge at the same tempo.
I think we did the automate thing where we
Okay, so you did slow it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's hard to do, actually.
Yeah, I mean, we played it a lot up to that point, I think.
Yeah.
Not really.
And well, maybe not, but the tempo change was very.
Well, we
It
did.
might be a true modulate, like a true modulation of tempo. I don't know, like if it's like an actual. Our drummer would know,
Wow.
you know.
Yeah. Very cool though. It certainly sounds like it's live off the floor.
Yeah, that's why I'm surprised. Like I'm not a huge fan of the click because I find the click can kind of rob the energy, especially if you're in a band that never plays with a click. Going into the studio and playing the click is the worst thing you can do because you don't know what you're doing. That's you should capture what you do when you play. But
Yeah,
it's great.
I really agree, especially if you've ever taken one of those classic, Motown tracks or any of those the 80s and dumped it into your DAW. It's like and have the whatever Logic or Pro Tools analyze it. It's like, whoa, we started at 90 and we ended up at 108.
Yeah.
There's an 18 BPM change over the course of the tune, but it just feels good through the whole
Yeah,
thing.
exactly.
Yeah, if you've got a bunch, because music is relative, right? Intervals and everything, and rhythms are relative. So if you've got a band that's tight and can play together, it doesn't matter what the externally applied tempo is. A bunch of guys and gals that can play well together, that's what counts.
I think I think I tried to do some things like that, and the powers that be were kind of like, guys, we need to be able to have that insurance that if we need to change something, it can be changed.
That's what I was going to say.
Right? Like, which you can't do if you're not on Click.
No. And the band I'm in, we actually, I am the drummer for the band, and we actually struggled with that a lot. And because we have a couple songs that the chorus kind of, it does speed up. We do speed up in the chorus, and that's what we naturally did. And it sounds good that way. If we tried to apply one single tempo through the verse and chorus, the verse was either too fast or the chorus was either too slow, like clearly, right? So what we did is what you did. We automated the tempo, but each verse is the same. Each chorus is the same, and the bridge is a slightly different tempo, but it's kind of rounded off.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
And then we had to click to that just for that reason, that you could, if you needed to copy and paste one guitar note from one verse to another, you could do that, and it would still be in time, or 2 beats or something like that. So we're still, we never did finish that recording project because the pandemic kind of went on it. What I'm basically saying is there's a lot of gray area between this is a strict tempo and this is completely loose. There is a happy middle ground that you can use there.
Yeah, for
Very
sure.
Cool.
I thought the chorus was really interesting because in the first chorus, the last line goes up, which is interesting because you normally expect, you feel like you would expect that last line to go down, but in the second chorus, it actually goes down, which then feeds into the bridge nicely.
Yeah.
But it was great because you're always sort of expecting it, and then it's sort of like it's different than what you thought, which I thought was so cool.
The chords are different, so that was part of it.
Yeah. So you've got in the key center, it's like flat 7, like kind of 4-1, and then the verses start on the 5 chord and resolve to 1. So that's probably the up, and the bridge starts on the 1 chord on the G, I think. So yeah. So lost and left behind, or in the 5 chord, and then on the way down, we're going down to just the tonic. So yeah, I get like these little things that just kind of take you on a bit of a journey.
It's interesting when the Lost and Left Behind goes down, Lost and Left Behind goes down. It's actually the same melody as the intro to the chorus, the bum 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 bum.
Yeah,
which always goes down.
Yeah, that's right.
Right, but then then as soon as I picked up on that, and then all the other choruses at the end of the vocal melody goes up.
It did, I thought, in a nice way, feed into kind of that drop. The whole band pretty much, or a lot of the band dropping out into that bridge.
Yeah. Is that a kind of a typical bridge for you guys? You can really strip it down and then really gradually ramp it back up. It's a really long bridge.
Yeah.
Yes.
It takes its time building, which is really cool.
Yeah, definitely one of my favorite tricks in is to use those dynamics whenever possible. It's kind of a live trick. This felt a bit like obviously that's a masterpiece and this is just our song, but there's a bit of a Layla at the end there, right? Where there's and it comes down to the dun dun dun. So those kind of ideas, I love them, and I love them in a live show. I don't, especially because we'll use this section now can open up as a vehicle for solos or whatever, and you can build things from there. It's really hard for me to have the endurance to, like, when we're already here and then it's like, and now there's going to be a long solo at this intensity for a long time. It's like, oh really, we're just staying here at like 10 out of 10 for the next 5 minutes, and then and the last chorus is going to kick in 11 out of 10, and then that's it's like after a while it's like, okay, you gotta have those peaks and valleys, I think. Yeah,
for sure. One of the things I've become more acutely aware more recently is that a lot of my favorite songs, the bridge is actually the high energy point of the song, not the chorus. For sure. The bridge is actually the high point of the song, and we're going to be doing a special show just talking about bridges shortly in the future. And it's kind of funny because I've even written songs like that, but it wasn't on purpose. We just sort of made the bridge brighter and bigger, and then it comes back, and then the energy actually comes back down for the last chorus.
That's awesome. Yeah, definitely.
So it's you can work it many different ways. Obviously, yours, this song is very different in that it goes down and then ramps back up.
Yeah.
But still, there's so many ways to do it, right? And play with the energy. The
the bridge. Did you have that? Felt like that you sort of explored the beginning of the bridge sort of as a band. Like it felt like that's kind of the thing a band would do as opposed to someone sitting down and, charting out the chords. Was that sort of done from working on it live, or?
We were jamming at our drummer's place, kind of working out the, bits and pieces of this tune. And we knew we wanted to go to a bridge. And you kind of had something in your idea about going to piano, I think. But then our keys player kind of took something on there, and it felt right.
He just started playing that
right
post second chorus. I often songwriting, I don't know, I don't want to say mistake, but I guess part of the process is if I can get an intro, verse, chorus, I'm bringing it to the band. And then I'll let, you know what I mean? It's like that last chunk is going to be, we're going to figure that together. Yeah. So then we got there and I'm like, that's all I've got. And he just started noodling that opening piano bit. I'm like, that's great. Let's go with that. And so, kudos to Alan on that one. It was awesome. But yeah, you're right. That was not composed. Plus I'm not a piano player. So things like that, I find, piano, I think, is such a fundamental instrument, and I really need to make the time to learn it, but just to have the chops to kind of get through.
Short of doing like really quiet picking on the guitar, I don't know. You're right though. The piano is a totally different.
Yeah, I think I just like bass, drums, piano, especially with organ and stuff. I'm not a huge, that song aside, I'm not the biggest proponent of a massive guitars all the time. Like I almost always, I never want to really be the guy who's, there's always like one what do they call it? Linchpin instrument that's kind of carrying the whole harmonic. Like somebody's got the lead, right? And the other instruments are kind of following and there's the singer on top.
Yeah.
I never want to be the guy. I always want like the piano to do it or something. And that's a great example of that section.
Yeah. And meanwhile, the guitar riffs in this song are tremendous. They're great.
Yeah, big loud sounds. Like that's a big one on that record, as opposed to like, Remain or Let Me Be Wrong, some of the other tracks from that album that are like very small and mild,
more minimal. Yeah.
Do you do kind of more ballady things once in a while?
Oh yeah, big time. Like we really love I love all those classic records, which are a journey of like a huge song, and then it's like they bring it down for a couple, and then you get another big one, and then, peaks and valleys. I think that's like tension and release is huge with writing, like and going to shows too. When you go to those shows where they just like they beat you up, like power metal, not metal, but massive song. I'm like, okay, it's just like
after a while.
Yeah, I need to go lay down. I'm like, this is too much.
Yeah.
You need those moments to breathe. I think that's good.
I really love the I think my favorite lyric in this is in the middle of the bridge: sell your heart for another easy day, sell your soul for another great escape, sell your mind for another ball and chain. And it's just so good. And the whole lyric is really the idea is clear about sort of moving through these struggles or the risk of getting left behind, so to speak. But it's you've actually injected a lot of really interesting imagery into it as well. A lot of visual language, like washing away with the rain and
my favorite is broken dreams sewn at the seams.
I was just gonna say broken dreams sewn at the seams. Beautiful. At the rhyme, like dreams seams, the internal rhyme thing going on there, really, really crafty and poetic and compelling. And you never, but you don't, that's, I don't say it's always the risk, but it's sometimes the risk when you get too, poetic and image driven, you kind of lose the point of the song, like what is it really about, kind of thing. But you haven't lost that here. Like it's
we really do try to find like a good space between. We don't ever want to be like super literal in our tunes, but also that the tunes still that you can still kind of follow what's happening.
Yeah, it can get a little too fancy sometimes with certain writers where you're like. The Beatles at times who are the best, like sometimes what is this about? Like where are we in this thing?
But as long as it sings well, you're
that's true.
That's really the best thing, right?
One really nice detail is in the verse on the 3, 4, fifth line is you sort of change up the rhythm. So it's da 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 da, which is really nice because it breaks up. You have, fairly, you have sort of more blocky lines of the first bits of the verse, but then you have the da 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 that kind of breaks it up, which I really like doing, which is easy to kind of go but it's very hard to actually find words that fit into those rhythms sometimes.
Yeah, I was trying to do that with like kind of a lilt is probably the wrong word, but like kind of a fitting, like, we wanted a swampy vibe, so kind of having a melodic line that kind of follows that.
And here's the interesting detail. I don't know if this was on purpose, but like your first verse, a hazy hollow round your mind. It's fairly, there's a lot of softer consonants in there. Hazy, hollow, round. But then when you get to each sign of broken light, that you end up back in line. Like there's more harder consonants, and that melody is a lot punchier. It's not as smooth and kind of, smooth and legato as the other one, right? And I don't know, is that on purpose? I don't know.
I don't want to take claim for that. It's possible it was something in my brain when I wrote it, but I don't remember.
It's good. It's really good. With the phrasing, like what Meg does, and what we try to do in general with the writing is, I heard the analogy of just rolling an egg. That's how it should always feel. Like, whereas rolling a tire would be a perfect spin, rolling an egg would be like off. It's like
it's a little bit oblong, yeah.
Right? So that's kind of
great.
Right? Broken scenes, like it's coming around, but it's not coming around in time, right?
Yeah.
We love that sound, like that.
Yeah, which is a great way to look at it. Yeah,
sort of. Yeah.
It gives a verse a push.
Yeah,
and interesting that the chorus is 4 lines, but almost everything else in the song is longer, which is interesting.
There's a real clear delineation between verse, pre-chorus, and chorus.
Yes.
It's tremendous, and a pre-chorus has got a lot of words.
Yeah,
it does.
Yes, it does. That's great.
But the way it leads into the chorus is really great, because again, it's not just one melody structure throughout the pre-chorus. It's the same melody structure for the first few lines, and then you start drawing things out and really building up the tension, and then you drop in the chorus. It's classic kind of thing, but it works, right? There's a reason why it's tried and true, but it totally works, and it's it just builds the song beautifully.
Sweet.
Yeah. It's working.
Did you have challenges working with or finding the right producer, because you have a very specific sort of a style that's maybe not as common as maybe it once was? Did you have trouble finding someone who could sort of work with that?
Yeah, we met Renan in 2019, 2018?
It must have been 2018.
Yeah, so Samantha Martin, who's I don't know if you guys know Sam Martin and Delta Sugar, great band. She had seen our band. So again, there's these competitions they have in the blues community called the Road to Memphis. Basically, it's a bit strange in that not that they're the great events, but any competition for music is a little bit, comparing apples and oranges. But so we did this event, and Sam was one of the judges, and she was working with her partner, Renan, who runs Gypsy Soul Records. And she's like, I'd love to produce this band. I think I get what you're doing. He was a fan of some of the same bands that we were fans of. He took us on, and along with Darcy Yates from the Bahamas, the bass player from the Bahamas, great musician as well. And so they co-produced our first record, and then for the second record, they it was just Renan. We just signed up for a second record with him, and he definitely is aligned with our vision in terms of we like the same artists. We like Tedeschi Trucks and Marcus King and the Allman Brothers and Sharon Jones and these kind of artists. So he was great and greatly aligned with what we were looking for.
Nice. Yeah, it's really amazing when you can find a producer that gets you and speaks the same musical language. Yeah.
What a great song, and lots of bits to it.
Yeah, I've been listening to the rest of your stuff on Spotify. It's really great stuff.
Oh, great.
Okay, I think
band link people check them out as well.
Yeah. Okay, I'm hearing the band in the background there, so that means that is all the time we have on Song Talk Radio tonight. Special thanks to Bywater Call, Meghan and Dave. Where can our listeners find out more about Bywater Call?
Bywatercall.com. You can find out everything you need to know about us on there, and we're on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram, Spotify, all those.
Awesome. Okay, and we want to hear from you, our listeners. So please send us your comments on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram at Song Talk Radio, or send us an email, feedback@songtalk.ca. Also, be sure to check out our YouTube channel for live performance videos and full episodes. Subscribe today to the Song Talk Radio podcast on your favorite podcast provider, and don't forget to sign up for our free newsletter. You can find links to all the products, books, and web services we mentioned on the show at our resources page on the website. And wherever you are in the world, please join us online via Zoom at our next monthly Song Talk meetup. It's free to join on meetup.com and free to attend the meetup, bring a song and a lyric sheet, and get constructive feedback from other songwriters. Stop by songtalk.ca for the link. You can follow me at neilmodi.com. You can follow Phil at
PhilEmery.ca.
And Meghan and Dave, Bywater Call. What's your favorite social media channel? Where do you guys go the most?
Instagram and Facebook.
Instagram and Facebook?
Pretty up to date there. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, thanks for listening, everybody. Be sure to stop by the website, songtalk.ca, to browse past shows and find out how you can be a guest. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and keep on writing.
Good night, everyone.
That was great.
Great stuff. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's
Thanks,
great to have
guys.
like an in-depth talk about these things. We don't normally do that.
Yeah, it's not a normal interview show.
Yeah, a lot of times with the interviews, they're like, it sounds like they're reading they're like, so it looks like you had Julian Nally on saxophone. I'm like, yeah, it definitely says that on the back of the album. It's not an interview. It's like meetings listening. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was really fun.
We like to ask the tough questions.
Yeah.
What were you thinking? That lyric, really?
Do you guys ever do that where you're like, yeah, I'm not loving that? I guess that's not really nice or fun.
Well, we do a meetup, and where people bring in songs in progress,
Mostly
and then people
amateurs.
bash around the ideas, and that's actually really helpful. Just hearing other people go, well, I don't really understand what you're talking about there, or because it's, especially when you're working on your own, it's hard to have clarity,
Yeah, that's really cool.
Your chorus doesn't really pop out the way that it should, or the way it feels like it wants to, or whatever. So how can we?
But I mean, with the artists you interview.
What's that?
With the artists you interview, like, do you
With the artists we interview, it depends. I mean, the frankly, the artists that Carrie send us, including you guys, are just like, the songs are so good that you can't really say anything bad about them.
Yeah.
Sometimes when we do have people, that come to us from the meetup, we did a songwriting challenge. For the last 3 years, we've done a songwriting challenge where we've invited our listeners. Like we as well each wrote a song based on the challenge, and then we invited our listeners to send in their songs with a little write up on what their songwriting process was. We're a little more critical there.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. That's
say
cool.
what works and what doesn't, according to us. But yeah.
That would also be like a cool idea for like a podcast in general, where it's just like it's not mean, but it's like, it's a very workshop. It's like that's the podcast. Like, send in we're doing 5 songs a week. We'll pick, you might not get picks, but when we do, you might not get the feedback you want. We might tell you that bass line is not working. It's in the way. It's something like that. Could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, especially people who are working on their own, they don't really know. One of the things that used to happen a lot with the, we used to do the meetup in person. I lived in Toronto as well. Of course, now we do it over Zoom, but people would bring in their guitar, and so many guitarists don't tune their guitar. which drives me nuts. And I'm saying, your guitar is going out of tune all the time.
Yeah.
You tune it, and it's slowly going out of tune. How fast depends on how good your guitar is, but tune your guitar. That's a couple of times we've had to have people stop saying, "Look, you have to tune your guitar," because it also throws off your ear. And some people don't hear that, and once you do, it's...
And when we did the meetup live, it was at the Transact Club, and the piano in that room was never in tune.
Oh yeah, that guy gets beat up pretty bad, I think.
Yeah.
Never.
Playing that thing and singing.
Yeah, like in the front room there or in the back? I guess
In the, what was it, the tiki room?
Yeah, the tiki room, the small
Yeah, the front
one?
room. Like, no, not this room with the bar, but the one beside it that faced Brunswick.
Yeah. Very cool.
The smaller room. That's where we had our meetup.
It's the tuning thing. I mean, it's becoming some of our friends they're equating the clip-on tuner on stage to the shorts on stage. It's like this cannot. This must stop. Thou must buy a Stomp Box tuner. You will not have clip-on tuners on your guitar while you're performing, which is a little too much. I can see the shorts though. That's never a good look. That's the shorts on stage is a no.
With my band, it was a punk band, and we were trying to figure out what to wear on stage, and we didn't want to look like everyone else who looked like they just came in from cleaning the lawn, Right. So we all loved WKRP, so we wore really nice business suits.
Amazing.
But I actually had to go out and buy a business suit because I was in advertising and we never wore business suits. Like if you did, people would go, "Are you going to a funeral?"
Yeah.
So I had to go out and actually buy a suit. And it was so interesting because it was kind of like being in KISS. Right. Because you had a uniform that you played. You wore the same suits every time. It was so weird. I'm going, I guess this is a lot easier than trying to figure out, well, what am I going to wear tonight at the gig?
Yeah, it makes your job easier, in fact. But
it does actually. So there you go.
That's
all the things.
Well, thank you guys. It's really fun.
Really awesome time. We'll where do we subscribe to the podcast?
Songtalk.ca.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and the podcast will be up probably on Sunday.
Yeah, probably a week or so.
Cool.
And we'll send you an email when it goes live, and share it with all your friends. And if you know of anyone else who you think would be into talking about this kind of level of songwriting, I mean, not everybody is, but people who really like to talk about songwriting and nerd out about stuff, send them our way because
Yeah, pretty much all genres, kind of, or
anything goes. But especially, more people in your particular circles. We don't get a lot of blues music, to be honest. We get a lot of singer-songwriter, a lot of pop, some rock.
Yeah. Okay.
Odd occasional jazz artist.
Right. We definitely have some friends that I think would love to be involved.
Yeah. Hardly ever reggae, hardly ever hip hop.
Right. Unfortunately.
Reference to that.
Mostly singer-songwriter.
Yeah.
Right. So like a solo person
when we did the show live, like 80% of the time it was person with guitar in studio singing their song.
Yeah. Right. Just because it's easier.
Acoustic.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Hey.
Pass it around.
Yeah. We know some people.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. It'd be awesome.
Yeah. Thanks so much again.
All right.
Thank you so much
for coming. It's great to have you guys.
Yeah.
We'll be in contact. All right. Take care.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye.